Hey, good morning everybody. As you can see, I'm not in Florida, and yeah, that's a little bit of snow in the background there. I'm actually out visiting my son in Utah, and his in-laws have a little kind of a cabin up in the mountains here in Utah, and so we're up there right now, and you can see that yeah, winter is still alive and well here rather, and so I'm kind of starting to feel a little kinship with some of those 2018 thru hikers that have been dealing with all that snow this year. I have a little bit of a Q&A to do. I don't have a lot of questions that have come in, so we'll get to it. And I have some that have come in on email, and those we'll kind of keep anonymous, since I assume that's kind of the purpose of some folks sending me those email. Now, kind of an off topic for hiking, but one of my subscribers, Francis Kemp, he says, "Hey Colonel, do the Air Force pilots take on names like the Navy and the Marine pilots do? And if so, what was yours?" It's pretty common in the fighter community to do the call signs for the nicknames, and it's kind of catching on in other areas of the Air Force. In the helo world, it's kind of a hit and miss. The first two flying assignments that I was in, nobody was getting any kind of names during that period of time. When I got to my special ops unit, they had when I was going through my H-60 training, they were in Desert Shield, which was the stage up for Desert Storm, the first Gulf War. And when I got to my unit, they were actually deployed they were in Saudi Arabia at the time. And when I got there and I walked onto the steps of the hooch with my duffel bags, one of the guys in the squadron I never met, I guess was the name giver, he looked at my name tag, Steve Walker, and said, "Luke Skywalker." And so it was Luke Skywalker, and for a while it was Skywalker, and for a short period of time it was Luke, and then it kind of settled down to Sky, and that's what I go by, is Steve Skywalker. So that was my that's the nickname that I got, and if you ask anybody that's Air Force helicopter pilot and special ops, if they know Steve Skywalker, then you'll probably get an affirmative. So that's how I got it. Nothing too crazy, nothing like doing something stupid like some people get their nicknames from. So all right, let's see. Fred McClure, he said, "Did you ever get so hot that you couldn't sleep?" And yeah, in Virginia, during the month of June, it was really miserable. And during that period of time too, I was metabolizing some of my own muscle protein, which meant my sweat was smelling very ammonia-ish. And so the clothes that were wet, you could take them off, throw them in the corner of the tent, and that odor was just so overwhelming. It was really hard to sleep. And then that's one of the drawbacks of that double wall tent over a single wall, where you can open up the doors like on the duplex. You didn't get any airflow, and so there were a couple of times when I would put the tent up the flight creek, and then kind of put on the back part of the rain fly, and then kind of roll it up. So if it started to rain, I could deploy it pretty quickly over the top. But then that way I could get a little bit of airflow, and that seemed to help a lot with the heat. All right, one of my email viewers, so staying anonymous, he just says, "Hey Steve, thanks for all the vids. I have sleep apnea and snore loudly. Wondering if you had your own experiences with snoring, or on the trail, or other snoring. It sounds silly, but it's been a fear of mine when camping around others and things." Yeah, I mean, if you're a snorer, you don't like to disturb other people, but everybody does have to sleep. I think, when you're on the trail and you get super tired, to some degree, everybody snores a little bit, and everybody kind of knows that when you're in groups, there's somebody's probably going to be a snorer, or loud, Neo air mattresses. Most thru hikers carry earplugs for those occasions. The snores is one of the reasons why I didn't really like the hostile environment that much when you're in group settings, but sometimes it can't be avoided. Now there's snorers, and then there's freight trains. If you're a freight train kind of a person, don't stay in the shelters and disturb other people. Tent a little bit away from everybody else, and have a little bit of sympathy for them so they can get a good night's sleep. Now there's going to be times when it might be really storming badly, and you got to go to the shelter, and just apologize ahead of time to everybody. Say, hey guys, I am sorry, I'm a real bad snorer, and it's going to get a little loud. Speaking of loud, the wind is roaring through here right now, and just apologize ahead of time. People will understand that. I have another subscriber that asked questions about old gear. Kind of in general, I went through some silly stuff that he had, but just in general, yeah, I've seen people hiking out there with old gear. In 2017, I met Shaman, who was using his old Boy Scout stuff that was in his external frame pack and hiking with it. This is my caution about old gear. Number one, it's heavy, so you need to understand that. Number two, if it wasn't taken care of real well over the years, i.e., you go out hiking with it, you come home, you throw it in the garage, you don't wash all the salts and sweat out of it, then all that stitching and stuff is going to deteriorate. So where you might be able to use some old stuff and go out for 1 or 2 nights camping, if you start to try and do a through hike with some old gear, you're going to find yourself having a lot of gear failures, probably mostly stitching that's going to come out. And if you throw in if you keep your tents stored in the garage, not climate controlled, if you have like the sill nylon, it'll become really sticky and tacky, and then when you get out there in the dirt's going to stick all over it, and it's just going to be nasty. So those are some of the things with old gear and not taking care of gear. Now, I just had an experience on the trail with Jesse. My 2016 through hike attempt, I just kind of tossed my Sawyer away when I got back, thinking that I'd gotten some pretty good mileage out of it. I'll just get a new one when I go back out, which I did. So I had a new Sawyer when I went out in 2017 for the 450 miles. Well, I didn't throw it away because I really didn't think I had gotten that much use out of it yet, so I kept it. And I got back, and I flushed it out and blew as much of the water and shook as much of the water out as I could, thinking everything was fine, and got ready to go hike, and then that part of that gear check process, because Jesse thought maybe his wasn't flowing as well because he had brought a brand new one, and I guess it just took running a bag through it before it really flowed well. But that got me thinking I better get mine out, and sure enough, man, it was not working. It was not flowing, and it was good enough for the hike that we were going to do just overnight. So I took it out there, and sure enough, Jesse's with his new Sawyer Squeeze. He was running 3 bags of 3 liters of water through his filter to my one, and his was running through easily. I was having to really push hard. So my lesson learned was, yeah, Sawyer is good for, I don't know, what, 100,000 gallons or something of filtering water, or 1 million, but they don't store well. Once you've used them and you've got them out there and you've run them through, streams and lakes and stuff like that, once they seem to come back and dry, apparently they have some issues. So one of my lessons learned. So if you're getting ready to go out on the hike and check your gear out, including running water through your filter. I'm gonna have another question about, do I have an experience with the earth sack? Now, for those who don't know what that is, the earth sack is a sack that's made out of Kevlar, and typically you put one of the no odor bags in there, and you put your food in it, and instead of throwing it up in the tree, you actually just tie it to the tree. And the idea is the bear can come up and maul at it and gnaw on it and can't get in and can't open it up. The gal that used hers, she had a large one, and I talked to her recently, and she told me that she probably could have gotten by with a little of the size less than the largest one for her hike. I think she did 400 miles, 500 miles. She said it always felt wet. I was a little bit heavier as an option, but it's probably lighter than a bear canister. So if like the PCT ever gets around to allowing earth sacks, that's probably a better option than a bear canister. My thought was it kind of ties at the top and cinches at the top, and with that comes the possibility of getting water and rain in it. So I asked her about it. She said even in heavy thunderstorms, she never got water into the earth sack. So that's kind of my experience, and it's a secondhand experience with that. Another viewer asked, having reviewed many gear breakdown vids from hikers, it seems that bug spray isn't really mentioned too much as a concern, and seen so many people in shorts makes me think they must be covered by ticks by the end of the day. Along those lines, how bad is poison ivy and such on the AT, and any precautions? So, bug spray. Most people don't talk about bug spray because they don't start out with it. But eventually, most people start using the bug spray. Some people will use the permethrin at the beginning of the hike, but honestly, it doesn't make sense, when you're starting out in the south. Now, if you're doing a sobo starting in June, yeah, you should start out right with bug spray and the permethrin on your clothes. Because I'm going back out in May, I probably will do a little gear how-to on applying the permethrin and demo that. So you could anticipate that video coming. So yeah, a lot of people do that. You hear people talking about, 100% DEET, that's the only way to go. Man, DEET, I don't like DEET. It makes me sneeze and I just don't like it. There's a picaridin that was developed for fishermen, which seems to be a little bit more friendly and skin friendly to me. 100% DEET, it does not do well mixing with nylon, so you have to be very careful with your tent and having that DEET on your skin and touching your nylon and your hammocks and things like that. I found my bug net very helpful, actually, and probably as useful as a bug spray. But yeah, when the summertime comes around, people usually pick some things up. A lot of times, I kind of would have avoided, because you go to the store and you pick up this great big bottle of Deep Woods Office. I don't want to carry that much weight. And I ran into a hiker that had a bottle of that, but it was almost empty. She was only out for just the section hike, and she said, "Yeah, I poured half of it out." I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that." So you can go to the store if your only option is this great big thing of bug spray. You don't need it for 4 days to get to your next place. You could dump some of it out and then only carry just what you need for that leg if you're super weight conscious. So let's see. The second part of that question was poison ivy. Yeah, there's poison ivy on the AT. You can get into, if you're super sensitive to it, you can get some trouble before the leaves come out, because the little stems will be growing everywhere. So if you're kind of walking through the woods and you see these little 6-inch just stems kind of sticking up out of the ground, those are all poison ivy. I guess little seedlings, I guess, for the lack of a better word. And so you do need to be a little careful with those if you're super sensitive to poison ivy. Learn what they look like. I think at the end of one of my Trail Talk videos, I think I show a picture of poison ivy. The thing to remember about poison ivy, there's a lot of stuff out there that has leaves of 3. Virginia creeper is one of them that kind of mimics the poison ivy. But the poison ivy, the 3 leaves, they're not all the same. In other words, the center one is symmetrical left and right on it, and it's kind of jagged. The 2 on each side kind of look like a mitten, and they're not symmetrical to one another. So go on the internet and look at some pictures of some poison ivy, familiar yourself with it, because it's out there, and it likes to, and it grows around the trees. I helped a gal hang a bear bag once, and she was hanging it on this tree and then tried to tie it around the trunk, and the trunk was just laden with poison ivy vines, and she had no idea what she was doing. And she was getting all that poison ivy oil all over her bear line, and so we got it off, and we went and got that thing cleaned up and gave her a little tutorial on what poison ivy looks like. So yeah, you need to know. Now, poison oak, poison sumac, I didn't see any out there. I think that's more of I think for sure the poison oak's more out west. But as far as poison ivy goes, yeah, you do have to keep your eye out for it. So, all right, that's a wrap up here for this Q&A. And if you got any questions, once again, leave them in the comment section below. I also try and cull some comments and questions out of my other videos. And if you've got something specific you want to ask me that you don't necessarily want to be identified with, or you think it's a little more detail, go ahead and send me an email to bigbirdhikes@gmail.com, and we'll see what we can do to help you out. I'm here to give back to the community, so that's why I do these. And hopefully everything's still on track for me to leave around the 1st of May back from Harriman northbound on my attempt to finish this trail. All right, see you later, everybody. Bye.